Okay, Darius, and we are recording now. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing really well. I'm really excited to have you on the show, Darius. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
I
no
was really
problem.
excited to have you on. I want you to first introduce yourself. I do want to start by saying, obviously, I've known you for a while. I went to middle school with you, and we both shared a passion for sports. I still keep in touch with you, particularly about sports, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. I've been friends with you for years. I know you well. You've always been a really smart guy. You are a collector and an investor of sports cards. So I'd like for you to introduce yourself and sort of encapsulate how you got started with that and what brought you to the level that you're at now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you talking about our upbringing together makes me think of, I don't know if you remember, I used to go to your house and we would trade cards together. So you were not too long ago a sports card collector yourself. But yeah, I mean that's how it started. Is like back in the day, little kid collecting cards. Like I'd go to school and trade them with you and Rod Hidalgo and other random kids, and everybody kind of like phased out of it at some point, but I just always kept going with it. Like throughout high school, I was doing it. I was on these online forums, selling cards on eBay, going to card shows when they were here local in San Francisco. And then even in college, at some points I would have the cards with me, some of the cards with me in college down at Santa Barbara. But for the most part, I would have my mom ship cards out for me. So again, I was still doing it in college. And then after college, picked it up even more and started going to some more national level shows, like the big National Sports Card Convention, which is like it's like the World Series of sports cards. So
Wow.
I went to that for the first time in like 2017, I think, and that was just kind of eye opening, just to really show me like how big the card industry was. Before that, or I think maybe right before that, I had just gotten on Instagram for cards, which is like Instagram is a huge hub for collectors to show your collection. Post what you collect, what you're picking up, what you're trying to sell. But then, like I was just saying, it's a big marketplace too. So that's where majority of the transactions that I do is on Instagram. You don't have to deal with the fees. You kind of just go peer to peer, right? Direct to the person you're dealing with. A lot of times you're dealing with people that you know, so you don't have to deal with, dealing with someone that you don't know, a stranger on eBay, and wondering if they're going to pay or if they're a bad actor, etc. So yeah, that's kind of how I started, and um, kind of went off the rails there a little bit. But yeah, that's I kind of just got into it a little more aggressively after college. And yeah, I've just been continuing to like put a lot of time into it, a lot of money and a lot of effort. And it's just something that I enjoy doing at the end of the day, which is what keeps me going at it the most.
That national convention, out of curiosity, does something like that necessitate an invite or can anybody
No, it's
show up?
it's it's yeah, you just pay,
Yeah.
15-20 bucks to go. This year it'll be in Chicago. Last year it was in might have been like Atlantic City. So I've been maybe like four, maybe three out of the last 5 years. I didn't go last year, but I went maybe the previous 3 years. So it's really pretty remarkable what they have there, and it's not just cards; it's all kinds of memorabilia. Um, you'll see some crazy Babe Ruth game worn jerseys, stuff
Man.
like that you've never
Wow.
seen before. They have a whole list of athletes there to sign autographs and take pictures with
Wow.
people. So it's like a whole event. It's a whole, it's almost a whole week. It's like 5 full days too. So it's a
Wow.
pretty big deal for
Yeah.
card geeks like myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's kind of like the pinnacle of the sports car training because I've been to one of the shows here at what is it, the Cow Palace um,
Yeah. Oh man,
here
though
in San Francisco.
that's like
It's
nothing
nothing.
compared to this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's nothing. Yeah, I mean that's more amateur. You've turned this into a business, and we'll get further into that. But going to something like that, I'm sure you bring a collection of cards. I'm sure you bring stock, and you're looking to make deals. Potentially. But how much of it is just networking?
Yeah, a lot of it for sure. One thing I'll say is that in this industry, it's not as big as you might think, and it's not like there's not always a lot of new people coming into it. At least that's what it feels like if you've been into it as long as I have. It's like everybody kind of knows everybody type deal. So it's more, I'd say more so than networking and meeting new people. It's like seeing the old faces that you've known in this industry for 10 plus years, catching up with everybody, stuff like that. Because for the most part in this community, like everybody kind of knows everybody, and people like to traditionally deal with the people that they know and trust as opposed to dealing with people that they don't know as well. So
especially in business. And, the dollar amount of some of these cards is quite steep, so you want to have, you certainly want to be working with people you trust. You are a UC Santa Barbara graduate, and I forget what your degree is in Dar. What exactly was it in?
Economics and math.
Yeah, it was an econ math major, and that's certainly where you seem to have excelled, and that's highly quantitative stuff, hard stuff. And you had a job at Yelp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did. So I worked actually at a more of a startup company where I had my first financial analyst job right out of Yelp for 2 years, and then I went to Yelp for about a year right before I came to Alt, which is my current company. I'm a product manager. I'm a remote worker, so I do my stuff on the side, which is always the way I've wanted to do it. Now, the company that I work for is fully in the sports card space, so I'm working with cards on a day-to-day basis, but it's more at a company level where we're building a marketplace for sports cards. So we're, dealing with customers and their needs and their complaints, and just building our platform to compete with the biggest auction houses in the industry. So we're competing with the eBays, the Golden, which is, the company that a lot of people have been seeing on Netflix. They have their own Netflix show. So we're just trying to scratch and claw and make a name for ourselves in this industry. And I, as a collector, I use the platform that I work for. So that's kind of cool. Like, I'm a product manager and I use the product every day. So that kind of informs,
That's
my
awesome.
job. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so it's kind of like something that I've always done on the side. And personally, I've never really thought that I would want to do cards full time. There have been points in time where I've considered it, particularly when I was back at Yelp and at the other company. Not so much now, just because I'm so close to cards that I think almost it's kind of like solidified it to me that I wouldn't want to be doing this full time. But it's nice to have it as a side thing where I can, put as much time into it as I please, and I don't have the added pressure of having to pay the bills with it and having to look at it like that.
Yeah, yeah, keep sort of the enthusiast aspect of it more magnified, where it doesn't feel as much like work. Like, wow,
Totally.
like now I'm doing this for a living and I just need to make deals. And it's like that favorite card that you probably had sentimental value for, that you initially said, I ain't getting rid of this thing. Now it's like, the right price, I'm putting it out on the market.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
So that's primarily what you're doing right now, is that you have that as your base, and then you trade your own cards. You buy, sell, trade your own cards on the side.
Yeah. So Alt it's predominantly a marketplace, but it's a lot more than that too. So basically you can look up any card and see what it's sold for. We give you a valuation for the cards. We have a vault. So basically, if you send your cards to us, and before you sell with us, you do need to send the cards to our vault. So that way it kind of works as an exchange. All the payments are guaranteed. You can't pull some of the tricks that you would pull on eBay of, returning cards or purchasing a card and then not paying for it, or purchasing a card and then doing a chargeback, right? Everything is like secured and facilitated by our exchange. So that adds a lot of security to all of the transactions. We're vetting and verifying all of them. But also, if you have cards in our vault, you can take a loan out against your cards. So that's something that not a lot of companies, we might be one of maybe a couple only in the industry that offer that as a service. Because you can't go to a bank and be like, hey, I have these cards that are worth $1 million. Let me get a loan against them. No one values cards. We're one of the only companies that we aggregate all the data. We have a model that is constantly iterating and getting better. We know how to model or value all the cards in the space. So that's sort of our advantage, is we pride ourselves on our data, and that's what we use to facilitate loans and to price cards accurately, so that when we're selling them, we need, a lot of times we offer cash advances for cards to sell on our site. So we need to price them accurately, make sure that we're advancing correctly, so that the customer is winning, but we're not taking a hit and losing money as well. So.
And what are some of the main characteristics in place for somebody watching who might have an interest in sports, but doesn't necessarily know how the cards work, Darius? Can you briefly break down what some of the most important characteristics are when determining card value?
Yeah, I think the main one that jumps out to me is scarcity. So, you know, you think of a player, let's use LeBron James as an example. You can have a LeBron James card that's worth $1, or you can have a LeBron James card that's worth $10 million. The biggest difference in those cards is the supply, the scarcity of it. So, you know, they print thousands of different cards of every player, maybe not thousands, but a lot of cards of every player every single year. So they're constantly creating more supply of all these cards. A lot of them don't really have any defining characteristics or anything different about them. They're just from a different year, from a different set. So what really makes the cards valuable is the scarcity, but also another thing is like, I'd say the provenance of it. So generally, like the earlier a card was made, especially in a player's career, right? Like as early as as early of a LeBron James card as you can find, that's generally going to be worth more. Not always, but I think that's generally a good rule of thumb. Like a one-of-one LeBron James rookie card is going to be worth more than a one-of-one LeBron James card from 2025, right? So scarcity is not the only thing to look at, because yeah, every year now, as the industry grows, the production grows too. So now the companies are printing tons more cards, tons more products. They want to make more money, and they're creating now, you know, tons of these one-of-one cards, which on the surface, wow, I have the only card in the world, right? But when you think about it, that's actually a diluted product. There's now maybe 50 one-of-ones of LeBron James that they're making a year, versus in 2003, maybe they were making 2 one-of-ones a year. So I'd say scarcity and like early provenance in the player's career would be like the 2 biggest things that I would think about.
Yeah, 2 main factors. I mean, of course, there are other factors, perhaps not as consequential, but something like, you know, the condition of the car. And, you know, things like the, you know, of course, the player, right? And how bullish the market is on the player. You know, like if I was to get a Cooper Flag right now, you know, that's a hot car because the market's just bullish on Cooper as he gets to the NBA. So what's your most valuable card right now?
I'd say, so I have probably one of my favorite players growing up. I'd say my 2 favorite players of all time are Tracy McGrady and Kevin Durant. So those are kind of 2 of the players that I collect the most. So I probably have 2, maybe the 2 best Tracy McGrady cards in the world, if not maybe 2 out of the 3 best. One of them being Tracy McGrady. It's from 2003. So he's in his Orlando Magic uniform. It's signed, and then it has this NBA logo that he wore in a game, and it's numbered 1/1. So that's his. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's like an earlier years McGrady card. It was produced when he was playing. It's 1/1. It's autographed. It has a lot of things going for it, and you can't replicate that card. It's the only Magic uniform McGrady card that has all of those characteristics. So, you know, I own the market on that card, right? If someone wants that card, it goes through me. Now, I don't want to sell that card because it's very nostalgic for me. McGrady was like the first player that I had his shoes, like had his jersey. I mean, you know how T-Mac was when we were growing up. He was like up there with Kobe. So that card for me is definitely up there, both in terms of value and just like sentimental value. But then the other one that I would say might rival it is I have Kyrie Irving's best card in the world too. So it's like his 1/1 rookie card. Again, logo man. It has the logo man from his jersey signed.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was one that I got when he was in Brooklyn, and like everyone was super down on Kyrie. I don't know if you remember. Now it's like Kyrie's back in everybody's good graces and everybody loves him again. But 2 years ago, people were like, he might just retire one day because it seemed like he didn't want to play basketball anymore.
He was on the verge of getting canceled. You know,
I've always loved Kyrie. Like when the Warriors were playing against them in the finals, I basically thought that he was as good as Curry. And I think whenever they match up, he proves that he's on that level. He just, you know, it takes a lot, you know, a lot of things have to go right in your career, and a lot of things have gone right for Curry. A lot of things have gone bad for Kyrie, but I think when people look back in 20 years, he's going to be one of the players that like defined this era of basketball. And he's going to kind of be like a Iverson type player where people look back on him a lot more fondly, and just like as a very popular player throughout the generations.
Oh yeah, he's a phenomenal player. And I think his card will always be so hot because, you know, he has such a sexy game to watch. Like it's such a just hyper skilled, just his
Totally.
ball handling exquisite.
Maybe the
His
most skilled player ever. I think a
oh
lot of people agree with that.
yeah. I mean, I'd get on board with that, Darius. At what point do you decide to trade a card? Like, and how often are you active in the market and not just on the sidelines? I have these cards and, I plan to hold them because obviously as you hold these cards, for the most part, they gain value over time. But, how active are you in the market trying to make deals to just increase profit?
Every day. Literally every day. I mean, I think, yeah, I'm on Instagram talking to people every day. I'm looking at the marketplaces every day to make sure that a card that I've been looking for years doesn't pop up, because that'll happen. Like there's cards that I have in my mind that, could be one of one cards of a specific player that I'm like, in my head, wow, I'd love to own this card. And then one day out of the blue, they just pop up on eBay for a 7-day auction. So like you need to kind of be on your toes, because you never know when these cards are going to pop up. And like the worst thing that can happen is for someone like me who like is a diehard collector. One day you go and you're looking at the sales history and you see that you missed out on a card that you really like, just because you weren't active enough and taking, paying attention. So I've had that happen before, and it really sucks, because then, once the card appears once, it's pretty unlikely that it's going to show up again for sale. So I've missed out on a few cards that I really wanted because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's one thing that I kind of try to, remind myself of, is like, I'll make a deal and acquire a big card. And then, I almost don't give myself enough time to enjoy that, because like a day later, something else pops up that I really want again. So like my focus is always kind of shifting to the next thing, which is good. It means that I'm always like active and like, looking ahead and not being content with what I have. But also it's almost like an addiction in some ways, that like I'm always making deals. I'm always buying cards and then having to sell cards to cover those purchases, type of thing. So it's like a never ending cycle, kind of.
It's important to be active and not be on the sideline. Like any other market, things move quickly. People are buying and trading every day at high volumes. For someone who's looking to get into this, who may or may not be as ardent as you are about sports card collecting, but they're looking to make some money. Perhaps they like sports and they have a fundamental understanding of, the best players in the game, in the MLB, the NBA, the NFL. What kind of advice would you give them? And how can they get started and profit as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I would say if the objective is to make money, there's probably other avenues that I would take first. I don't think this is like an easy, low cost to entry, and I don't think many hobbies or investing avenues are. But cards is just so nuanced, right? Like we're talking about the players. Like it's not just about knowing the players. You have to know the types of cards. You have to know what people want. You have to know what the cards are worth. So you can't just go to eBay and be like, oh, this card looks cool. Like you need to know, you need to do your research on what cards are in demand, but then what they're worth. So you don't want to overpay for a card off the jump and then you're already underwater, right? Because just because you see, it's not like when you're going to buy stocks, it's like the price you see today is the market price, right? If you go to eBay, the price you see is not the market price. People are listing their card for way over market. A card might be selling on auction and people might be manipulating the price. So there's a lot of factors at play, that it's not just like what you see is what you get. So that's the one thing I'd say. With that said, there's a lot of like resources now that you can use to learn about the industry. There's a lot of good YouTube collectors that put a lot of content out there. Instagram, like I said, has a lot of good collectors that are showing off good cards, showing you the type of stuff that is in high demand that people want. So I think those are good avenues. And then also, like, I honestly not even trying to push my own company, but like using a company like Alt to do your research to see what cards are worth. So if you're looking up a card on eBay, go actually look up the sales. And you can't just look up the sales just on eBay. Like if you're looking on eBay, you can't just look there, because there's 5-6 other websites now where cards are also selling. So you want to have a whole picture of, hey, this card might have sold for $50 on eBay, but it actually sold for $20 on Alt. So you want to know what actually the card is worth on all the marketplaces, not just on eBay. So yeah, doing your research before you dive in. because I think most of the time, and I think it's kind of like that in any industry. It takes kind of, you got to take your lumps before you figure it out.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And it usually necessitates a great deal of research, or you will end up down in the water quickly. Buying some card over market price by some guy off of eBay or some sports card trading site on Facebook Marketplace because
Yeah,
you thought it was a good card when there's plenty of factors you missed, and it's really
yeah.
not that good of a card. What are some common mistakes that you've seen investors make?
I kind of touched on it a little bit, and I think it's a mistake for some people, and other people make a lot of money doing it. But it's kind of just like chasing the new hot thing, right? Like there's always kind of a game of like hot potato happening in the card industry. Like, everyone right now is chasing like Cade Cunningham, for example. He's having a great year, great player, but I mean his cards are like way more expensive than like Kyrie Irving's cards, right? Which like to me is just like doesn't make any sense, right? But everybody's buying Cade Cunningham off of the hype and off of the potential that he might be the next Shea, for
Yeah.
example. I mean, Shea's cards are going ballistic right now,
Oh,
as you might expect.
yeah.
So everybody kind of collects what the masses want, which is good, right? You want cards that are in high demand, but you also don't want to get caught holding the bag, and you don't want to get caught buying at the peak, because everybody's only an injury away from having like a pretty big downturn in their card. So someone like Cade having an ACL tear versus someone like Kyrie having an ACL tear. Like Kyrie solidified his legacy, right?
Good
And I'm
point.
using him as a random example, but basically taking any player of that stature, right? So I think like it kind of depends on your risk tolerance, right? Like maybe you're very risk loving, and you like to gamble, and you're willing to do that, and the upside will be higher, but the downside could be just
Yeah.
even higher too. Um, so like I said, it's like I wouldn't say it's a mistake. It could be a mistake if things go wrong, but for some people, it's more appealing to go after what is in demand right now. I'd say that, and just like jumping in, and again just like following the crowd versus like doing your own research, and figuring out what it is that actually, like finding your own thesis versus like taking the thesis of the greater market.
Yeah. Like any other market, right? It's like, there's a hot stock, a hot equity. There's a company that the market has become increasingly bullish on, and the stock rises precipitously. And the next thing you know, it almost inevitably levels out. But people are buying and trading and, kind of
Yeah.
using that finite period of time, to try to make some money. So it's like any other market, right? It's like, Cade's having a great year. So like his card's hot right now. But I think you made a good point. You can get a Kyrie card or an Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the play would have been to load up on someone like Cade before the season, and then you sell him now. Now's not the time to be buying him, right? It's like
Correct.
you're saying, it's buy the rumor, sell the news. You don't want to be buying the guy that everybody's talking about and chasing right now, because that usually means that you're close to the peak when he's all over ESPN and Twitter,
Yep.
and everybody's raving about him.
You buy low, sell high, Darius.
Yeah.
You buy low, sell high.
Name of the game.
My last question is there a particular sport that's best to trade cards in?
No, I think it's true in regards to vintage. Vintage baseball tends to command like the highest premium. Like if you have the most expensive card in the world is a vintage. It's a Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps PSA 10. Just because those cards, I mean, they're so hard to find those cards in great condition. So that's usually what it is. It's like the cards themselves are not super rare, but having a card from 1952 in a PSA 10 condition is just like unfathomable. So so I think vintage
Yeah.
baseball, but in terms of the more modern stuff, football quarterbacks is like pretty much top of the tier. Whenever
Yep.
football season is coming around the corner, everybody's loading up on the quarterbacks. Those cards are selling for crazy money. Going into next year, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be like the guy of the football market. Everybody's going to be chasing him. People are going to be chasing like Bo Nix, JJ
Yep.
McCarthy, who's probably going to be the starter. Guys like that. They like
Right.
the second year quarterbacks who are coming off of good years. So yeah, the football market is huge. And then basketball is the biggest in terms of global, like if you know, obviously basketball is the most global game out of the three. NFL is the biggest domestically. But there's some
Correct.
really big collectors overseas for basketball. So basketball has probably the widest net to cast in terms of the market. Um, but yeah, in terms of like the stuff that's currently coming out, football is right up there. And I'd say baseball is like last in terms of the big three.
Thank you for your time, hopping on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Happy to do it. And
Yeah.
hopefully I provided some value to you and to your viewers. So
You absolutely did. No, it's great stuff and really good insight from someone who's really in the game, who has a serious portfolio. And no, it's really good stuff. I think they'll get good insight out of this, Darius. So thank you again for your time.
yep. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, sir. It's a pleasure, Darius. Take care.
You too.